Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. It is game week. We have 15 ironclad Vikings predictions that are unlikely to come true this season.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, trying to better myself by learning how to hold grudges like Mike Zimmer.
Hey, this is Arif Hassan with the Wide Left Substack. Luke Braun has more special teams penalties than anyone can remember.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hassan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talks Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
Welcome to week one, and welcome into the Minnesota Football Party on a Tuesday, day after holiday special edition. It is prediction day on the show where Arif Hassan, Luke Braun, and I make our special predictions for the Vikings season. 15 categories today. Can't wait to get into it. Luke Inman, regrettably absent. He will write in his predictions. We will follow them throughout the year. We'll do a halfway update, and we'll have it at the end of the year for you with the results. But first, we get into the Mike Zimmer story, which dropped on Saturday at the Star Tribune, an explosive tell-all where Zimmer basically shoots arrows at everybody in the Vikings organization. It is juicy. It is fantastic. We will rank the pettiest comments in the story out of the gate on today's show. Again, we're part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, don't forget to check out Luke Braun with his great daily Vikings content over at Locked On Vikings. You can find our audio on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. PrizePicks, run your game. I loved the Mike Zimmer story. I was thinking about this too. So
you're like Marie Kondo. You just love mess.
Yeah.
I
reading that like several times. I was like, wow, Sam's going to love this.
Yeah.
So, I am far from like Mike Zimmer's best friend. I didn't have special access to Mike Zimmer, but just as a product of work, I covered the whole Mike Zimmer era. Like there aren't too many people that were in the room when he did press conferences for his tenure, his 8-year tenure. So like, I don't know. I just felt like I kind of got Zim a little bit, and I had a soft spot for Zim, even though he was maddening and tough to deal with sometimes. And I kind of just understood where he was coming from. And I enjoyed his demeanor. I enjoyed his surliness. I kind of knew when he was lying because he always like had tells. So like to see him go full frontal, unfiltered, no punches pulled in this story to Mark Craig, I was relishing in it. I wrote down every petty quote that I could find in the article. And I'm at about
not do out of a sense of pettiness yourself.
I'm at about a dozen. And I probably filtered through some that could have qualified as well. I don't know what's my favorite. Buying out Paul Allen's share of a horse because he said something on his talk radio show.
So it's not just petty comments that you wrote down. It's petty anything.
Petty comments and actions combined.
I think that one is my favorite. That's the funniest response ever to a sports radio quote that you don't like.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, we'll talk about this in more detail. Look, keep going.
Well, I don't want to steal all the thunder. I think like what were your guys' favorite moments in this story? Because like and again, this story was in the works for a long time, and it was always going to be Mark Craig. Zimmer and Craig kind of they had a good vibe.
Yeah.
Craig didn't really, and again,
couple of curmudgeons.
Zimmer must have loved it whenever Mark Craig would ask every training camp how difficult it was to connect with millennials, which they may have been Zoomers by the end, but like it's the same question every year. He would ask, like, "Hey, these guys are like young and stupid, right? Please tell me yes."
Yeah, and they bonded forever as a result. And
that feels like a private conversation they'd have all the time that he was trying to get him to go public with.
I think the conversation that made the strip probably had happened already, just not in a on the record form. And it did happen, took 2.5 years, and it all came out. I mean, the Strays cast at Chris Boyd and Kellen Mond.
The Boyd one I think is
for and wonderful.
The Boyd one is my favorite because it's so random. It's so out of nowhere. You just picked a guy, like
Boyd was like his guy for a long time. That must have hurt.
Well, like Kendricks, that wouldn't make sense. He's like a leader of the team. That hurts. Terrence Newman, that makes sense. He's the leader of the team. That hurts. I think the Kellen Mond one makes sense because the quote about him blew up, right? And he's like, well, I was
right before he got fired too. Like that was the taste in his mouth he was left with.
So I get why he focused on that, but like Chris Boyd, just Jesus, like just
now
out of nowhere.
He wasn't wrong.
And Chris Boyd, did we confirm? Did Chris Boyd actually shoot an arrow at Zimmer on the way out? Because I don't remember it.
I think just about everybody did.
Yeah, I don't remember if Boyd did. It wouldn't shock me. I'll have to read Tyler Dunn's piece again, which the Star Tribune mentioned is in the Go Long Substack. I thought it was originally published back before he had a Substack on Bleacher Report, but there was he had multiple Mike Zimmer stories, so it could have just been that.
Yeah, I think that was you might be thinking of another Zimmer story because he was it was on Go Long by then.
The quote on Kellen Mond: he played 3 NFL snaps and 2 were bad.
Directly out of Locked On Vikings, by the way. I'm pretty sure I said that word for word.
Yeah, I love that because, like, obviously it acknowledges the dropped pick, but I just feel like sometimes you have these discussions and people forget catastrophic throws that just happen to be dropped by the other team, and Zimmer never forgets. He always remembers.
Well, he was dealing with that whole season. I remember that whole year. It's like, why isn't Kellen Mond QB2? Why isn't Kellen Mond? Why is it Mannion? Why is it Mannion? And the answer was so clear because Kellen Mond sucks more. It was very obvious.
Mike Zimmer walking out of the draft room after they drafted Kellen Mond and literally never letting that go. He held on to it all year. The vaccination stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's funny. Like he stopped talking to Spielman after like 21 or so. Like, come on, guy. Like he just didn't talk to the guy for like a year while they were like employed with each other.
Yeah. So that's
full on crash out. Like 2020 and 2021, full mental breakdown.
But totally unclear in the story too, like what led because it was in the story where it said Rick Spielman was looking at quarterback interviews at the combine, and usually he kept Zimmer in the know, but this time he didn't, and then he like secretly drafted Kellen Mond. So like, what led to that divide? I
mean, we're getting Zimmer's story here. Like, did Mark Craig reach out to Spielman to confirm that detail? Doesn't seem like it from reading the story. Right? Like I don't know, man. like how normal is it that he keeps him in the loop for every interview he does? Why isn't Zimmer in the interviews? That actually the coach is always in those interviews. I mean, not always, but like typically, right? So I don't know. It feels like we're taking Mike Zimmer's word for a lot of this.
I'm taking it all with a grain of salt. Because there's
stuff that's not like a direct quote from Mike Zimmer is just like, hey, we could have confirmed that, right?
To be fair, too, Rick Spielman spent like a year and a half rehabilitating his image in media before he went and got a job with Washington. Like he went out and said all the right things, and I really learned this from the Daniel Carlson deal, and all this stuff. Mike Zimmer came out after 2.5 years and was like, "Hey, screw all of you. I hate you all." Like,
there's something definitely much more authentic. Yeah, no, I like that. Also, the story starts with like Mike McCarthy being like, "Kids these days, this generation could use a lot more hard coaching." It's like, all right.
Troy Aikman nodding alongside.
Yeah, Troy.
Troy Aikman
approved. Yeah,
I laughed out loud at that part. Yeah, Aikman nodded. Like,
Aikman nodded.
Troy Aikman have anything to do with this?
Again, it just feels like it feels like that's not meant. It wasn't written, I think, to be funny to us. It wasn't meant to make Aikman just seem like this random bit player in the background that just kind of agrees with what everybody's saying. I think it was supposed to lend an air of gravitas. Like, yeah, the Hall of Fame quarterback also agrees. Like, it's serious, and
which is an incredibly boomer way to go about it.
Right, you and me reading are just like, that's hilarious. What is he doing there?
like this story paints Zimmer in such a negative, petty light, and yet in some way it's like a love letter to Mike Zimmer. It's like it's one of those.
It is. It's how he'd want to be remembered.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the same way, and Brett Favre stuff has come out since that makes him look way worse in a more serious way. But like there was a lot of bad stuff in the Gunslinger book by Perlman, and yet you were still like, man, Brett Favre, wow. Like the kind of the same type of vibe. I enjoyed the him saying, "I think you took 4 backups, Rick, when there were 4 starters on the board." As if
was he wrong?
Let's look. Okay, Nico Collins could have been a pick, although that was on offense.
He wanted Nico Collins.
No chance he wanted an offensive player at all. He could have had Osa Odigizue.
Odigizue? He's like good. He's on the Cowboys now, I think.
Justice.
Alan McNeil, pretty good player for the Lions. Milton Williams, decent for Philly.
Oh, Bad Dad Joke says Tariq Woolen in the chat. That would not only would that have been a pick I would have been so on board for at the time. That's a very Mike Zimmer pick. A 6'4" corner that can run like a 4.4. Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of people wanted him. Ben St. Juste?
Yeah, Minnesota/Canadian guy. Yeah.
They took 3 offensive players and 1 defensive player, who, by the way, the defensive player is still here, Patrick Jones.
Paulson Adebo, too. Yeah.
Yeah. What? Okay, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Okay.
Playing more than Chad Surratt is.
Yeah.
Did you want to address the team? No, they got me fired. I didn't know I was supposed to go to HR. I got my stuff, got in my truck, and left after he got axed.
Okay. So this is a guy that's supposed to be like a boomer, right? That's older than a boomer, really. That's like well-traveled and has had a lot of life experiences, but he's also like never been fired before, which is like a really critical element of a life experience. That he doesn't even know what to do after he just leaves. I've never heard of that in my
Atlanta?
life.
I thought Atlanta fired every coach. Like it wasn't his fault, but
the story says he's never been fired. Again, we didn't confirm that.
No, Mike Zimmer got the Cincinnati job. So I wonder if he kind of dodged
before he got fired.
Maybe he was interviewing before the firing happened. That
given permission to seek other opportunities.
Yeah.
I have not watched one Minnesota game since.
That's why
honestly. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's why there wasn't 33rd team content about the Vikings from Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, that's the reason, and not that there was only 3 pieces of content from Mike Zimmer at 33rd team. What if it was like on special teams in the preseason? It's like, what are you doing, man?
and you know what? I don't really see the fence getting mended with the Wilfs here. And the Wilfs are going to be here.
Absolutely not.
No, he's going to die mad. That's been made clear.
Yeah.
Unless the Wilf kids take over and 80-year-old Mike Zimmer gets brought out like Bob Knight in Indiana, and it's like a beautiful moment.
I think you need other ownership. Like Denny Green didn't get in until Red was gone, Like he obviously wasn't retired and stuff, but like I don't think he would have got in if it were still that's like the same like 10-headed monster that Denny literally wrote a book criticizing during a season. Like, I don't think that would have happened, but with the Wilfs coming in and like that, like all that beef it has nothing to do with them, and it was a lot easier to put him in the Ring of Honor.
This feels like a situation where he'll be put into the Ring of Honor posthumously, and like his daughter will be the one kind of accepting.
Yeah,
like that seems like the most likely
at halftime
situation.
of like a random Vikings Rams game.
Yeah.
Justin Fields hasn't done anything.
I mean,
tried to trade up for him.
True.
It's nice to get like confirmation that it was Justin Fields, because I think it was Courtney Cronin originally reported that before she left for the Chicago beat, actually, that the Vikings tried trading up specifically for Justin Fields, and then there was a video that was released from the Panthers, I think, that was the Vikings trying to trade up to the Panthers, which would suggest also it was Justin Fields.
Incredibly unserious offer, by the way.
Yeah, very funny.
It was like a 3rd-round pick to move up like 10 spots.
For a quarterback, right?
Yeah, for a quarterback.
It's a 1st-round trade-up, which already is expensive, and then there's the quarterback tax, and like Carolina was like, are you serious?
They just hung up, yeah.
So like, how mad can you be about that?
There was quite a bit of, I'll say, interesting takeage in the summer of 2021 about Justin Fields and the Vikings, and searching Twitter for those things in that time period, in hindsight, is very funny. People really thought that the Vikings screwed themselves over for a decade and a half by not trading an extra 1st-round pick for Justin Fields. Oh man, people were like, oh, woe is us. We're going to be, the Bears are going to win 17 Super Bowls, and we're going to be bad till 2030 because of this decision specifically. It's like, that was probably a lot for a draft.
I mean, I was very critical of their decision not to trade up for Justin Fields, but a decade and a half seems kind of harsh.
Yeah, no, that's not in the way that you were like, I wish they would have done that. Like, no. It was like, it was like, oh my God, they screwed themselves for a decade was like the take.
I was like, you gotta take hits at quarterback, man. You gotta. I can't believe you wouldn't do that.
Mike Zimmer, an ass, but he was right.
Also right about Chris Boyd and the special teams penalties. Do you want to guess how many special teams penalties he had in 4 years with the Vikings?
I remember he had 3 in a
14.
game.
3 in a game?
Arif
like
said
consecutive. It was amazing.
14.
Yeah.
14 is Arif's guess. Luke, over or under that?
Under.
Over.
11. Wow.
Jesus.
15 is the answer.
Wow. 15.
15.
Wow. 14 was a
Good
great guess. Goodness. I was when I said 14 and then Luke was like, he had 3 in a game once, I was like, I'm done.
In fairness,
honestly,
were declined.
Fair enough. Zimmer probably remembers the 3 in a game more than he remembers the 14.
Oh yeah.
But it's like the 3 in the game gets stuck in your head every time a new one pops up. You're like, it's this guy.
That's so many. Last couple. We're averaging 10 wins a year with quarterbacks who weren't as talented as Kirk. Classic.
I guess.
That was my point too at the time.
7 with Castle and Bridgewater. 11 with Bridgewater. So that's 18. Then 8 with Bradford.
8 with Bradford, and then 13.
26, and then 13. So, yeah, 9.25. No, 9.75 wins a year. Yeah, he's right. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah, okay, but if the majority of that average is being pulled from a fluke 13-win season that he himself did not believe was sustainable, is that really fair for him to say?
And also him saying that it forced us to get rid of defensive players we needed to keep. Who?
Yeah, actually, who is a great question on that one.
Xavier Rhodes got completely broken down.
Yeah, Trey Waynes didn't do anything after.
You kept Griffin around. You kept Hunter around. You kept Barr. You tried really hard to keep Barr. You kept Kendricks. Yeah, you kept Smith.
You would have to make the argument that it was like the 2020 roster turnover was a product of the 2018 decision to sign Kirk Cousins, which, I mean, yeah, sure, fine. But like a lot of the people that they lost in the 2020 roster turnover and the 2021 roster turnover weren't good after that. Like they didn't have
keeping those players probably wouldn't have been the solution to that. But the lack of motivation to replace them, especially at corner, is an error Rick Spielman made that they still have not recovered from.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know how much of that is like a Kirk Cousins problem, right? Because maybe they would have pursued corners in free agency that they would not have otherwise. That's certainly an argument you could make. I'm a little skeptical, but they did draft a lot of corners. They just like didn't work out, right? Like you had like Jeff Gladney, right?
Yeah,
Or
they
Mike
relied
Hughes.
entirely on rookies without like having a veteran presence in there that could help. Like I think that 2020 room didn't have a chance to develop, and COVID had a lot to do with that too. But
Well, okay, but also I remember at the time asking Mike Zimmer, like, hey, you've got a bunch of rookies in here. Your defense is like famously complex. It's famously really good because of all the continuity that you had. So you can layer on additional complexity to the understanding everybody has. Are you going to change the nature of the defense, make it less complex to account for the fact that you've got Cam Dantzler and Holton Hill starting? And he was like, no, absolutely not. It was like, okay. And then it looks bad in training camp and it looks bad in the preseason. So we ask again, like, hey,
I remember it looking good that training camp, although it was COVID, so we kind of could only go on like one person's reports. But I remember Holton Hill and Cam Dantzler like, wait a minute, maybe they're really good in training camp. And then they got absolutely dusted week one.
I remember Holton Hill getting training camp hype. I do not remember Cam Dantzler getting very much of it. I also remember being persistently concerned throughout training camp that the defense was going to be bad. And that was either just me saying, I'm going to ignore what I'm seeing in training camp, which valid, I guess. But I don't think that's what happened.
They also were going against first team receiver BC Johnson that camp. Let's not forget that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson getting clamped by Mike Hughes.
And then in week one, they get rocked, right? And
Yeah.
we're like, hey man, have you considered changing the defense? This is like the 50th time I'm asking this question. And he's like, no. And that's like around that time, that's when the quote, after they had already been bad once at least, that's when the quote, I've never coached a bad defense, or I've never had a bad defense, came out. And it's like, okay, man, like I get that you're at a talent deficit, but at some point you got to change things. That's crazy that you're like, hey, we've got like a 6-layer if-then process for our cornerbacks. That's how our coverage works. And it's like, that guy has played spot drop zone for 4 years in college. What are you doing?
Yeah, maybe having a guy like, I mean, it's kind of a moot point with Trey Waynes because he got hurt, but maybe bringing him back instead of letting him walk in free agency at the age of like 28 might have been helpful, even if it was just for 1 year.
I agree that there's a personality.
Or Mackenzie Alexander,
here,
I think, would have been really big.
But I just like sure, like keeping someone that you wouldn't have been able to keep because of the cap implications of Kirk Cousins, all of that, like fine. Or bringing in a veteran who's very used to kind of layered coverage calls would have helped. That would have been fine too. But I just feel like we're missing the other part of the equation, which is that coaches have to coach and they have to adjust their tactics for who they have. And he didn't do. He admitted that he didn't do that, which is nuts to me. And it's like, yeah, I mean, the investments they made did not work out. Like Bashaud Breeland did not work out, right? But like,
it was funny though.
It was very funny.
We got to get to predictions.
Yeah.
Read the Mike Zimmer piece in the Strib.
Like really kicked off his breakdown, I think. Like the truth that like what I'm doing isn't working anymore and it's very obvious. And instead of accepting that, his brain just melted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I'm actually, I think the Cowboys have become much more interesting to me, though, because of Mike Zimmer's presence. I'm very curious to see what happens in Dallas.
Yeah. Cowboys Falcons will be must-watch TV.
Oh, 100%. You blitz all night. We'll be right back. Predictions, 15 of them. Let's go. Brought to you by Gametime. There's a new feature called Gametime Picks on the Gametime app, which makes getting tickets extremely easy. Gametime Picks filters through the fluff. It shows you the best deals, the best seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The curation allows you to get into concerts, comedy, theater, and of course, sports with great ease at Target Center, Target Field, US Bank Stadium, Huntington Bank Stadium, Allianz Field, any of the many venues here in the Twin Cities or elsewhere. Toggle on the all-in pricing. You don't want hidden fees. You don't need to have them with the Gametime app. panoramic views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee on the Gametime app. Again, get into any event in town at great prices, often getting better the closer you get to Gametime. Gametime has the best customer service in the industry as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. We are also brought to you today by BetterHelp. Kids are always learning and growing. As adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. When I see the world through their eyes, it's a little different than how I see it, but it's fun. It's fun to be around that curiosity. So what's something you'd like to learn? Gardening, a new language, how to golf better than your buddies. Well, therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder and curiosity. Because your back-to-school era can come at any age. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Prediction time. We do this every year. I've got 15 categories. We're going to put on the record what we think of the Minnesota Vikings this year, beginning with the quarterback, Sam Darnold. I want you to make picks for the following categories. There's a point available for each: touchdowns, interceptions, yards, and games played. Let's start with Arif and go to Braun. We'll mix up the order every time.
26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 3,700 yards, 17 games played. No mono.
No mono.
Playing every game. All right, Luke Braun.
I'll go with 16 games played. Light mono.
Light mono.
Because of that, I'll say so 3,700 would actually comfortably hit Darnold's over. On FanDuel, his over-under right now is 34.75. So I'll go 34.76.
TDs.
We'll say
please. Yep.
30 TDs, 20 interceptions.
Oh my gosh.
Volatility.
Chaos.
It's going to be a fun year.
He's never had 20 touchdowns in a year, but he's going for 30 this year. Was surprised actually at his lack, and I don't know if it was durability or if he got benched in all these seasons. Maybe he got benched.
Big time benched.
Okay. Hasn't played more than, was it 15 games? I'm also going like sort of above his career averages in a lot of cases. I'm going 22-12, 3,377 yards, 15 games played. So moderate mono. Let's start with Braun this time. Aaron Jones, rushing yards and touchdowns. A point available for each.
I'll go with 775 rushing yards.
Whoa. Wow.
That's about what he's at FanDuel.
Which is just a little, isn't that a little wild to you? That's such a low number.
Hey, Kevin O'Connell's never had a good rushing offense.
Yeah, and they're perceiving a carry share, which I understand.
Yeah, which they might be, because I do think that Ty Chandler gets like 2 drives a game, but that's it. Like, it won't be like a true committee. Like, I think some people are still expecting. Touchdowns, 7. They struggled a lot at the goal line, and it is the same group of guys up front.
Rushing the ball into the end zone, not a strength. Arif, actually, no, it's me. Sorry. Aaron Jones, 1,129 yards, 7 touchdowns also. I got that number based on 15 carries a game for 15 games at, I think it was 5 yards a carry. So I'm hoping for efficiency. Arif, what do you got?
I'm going to go 885 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns. He has a knack for finding the end zone. I think that they will still, rush in the red zone. I think they'll be better at it. I think that some of the problems with it last year were variance related, and I think it'll bounce back.
I will start with Justin Jefferson, catches, yards, and touchdowns. I'm banking on a lot of garbage time yards for Jefferson, where he remains in the game. And with the Vikings down 2 touchdowns, he gets a lot of yards through sort of the soft defenses. 121 receptions, 1799 yards. And I think there's a little bit of like anti-regression because he's had a hard time scoring. I think he actually finds the end zone more this year, 11 touchdowns. Arif.
Let's see. What did I write down? So Jefferson, I've got 105 catches, 1,300 yards, so lower yards per catch, 8 touchdowns.
Braun.
Just went straight with that's just right on the FanDuel line.
Oh, is it?
Going
Great.
chalk. Yeah, pretty much. 1,300 is exactly the FanDuel line, and it's over under 7.5. We'll go with 125 catch. I mean, I think he's going to be the focal point. Like he's going to be like we force the ball to Justin Jefferson a lot. So 125 catches, 1,999 yards. We're going to get one short of 2K, and we're going to be scrounging the stat lines. We're gonna be going through like every single catch to see if we can find that extra yard.
Yeah,
like we did with Adrian Peterson. And,
yeah.
So 1,999 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Beautiful. We start this time with Arif, I believe, sack leader, and how many?
Jonathan Grenard. I think that one's pretty obvious. 11.5.
Braun.
Dallas Turner with 7.5. He's going to take snaps. He's going to be an every down player by week 4.
I also am going Dallas Turner with 10.5. 7.5 is a pretty good guess.
None of us wanted to go 0.0, just 10.0, 7.0. No, and a half.
No, I got to have a half. It feels more exact, okay?
Because you can actually get halves in sacks. Can't
Thanks,
get them
Sam.
in yards. Can't get them in touchdowns. Interception leader, Luke Braun, how many?
I almost said Sam Darnold. Interception leader.
Mullins, if Mullins gets a couple games, he could give him a run for his money.
I was like, wait, what? Interception leader, we'll go with Cam Bynum with 3.
Okay. I'm going to go Metellus 4.
I wanted to say Metellus for sack leader really bad, but decided not to be that weird.
I'm going to go with Gilmore with 3.
Gilmore with 3. Bump and run Gilmore. Next, Flores's blitz rate. We're going off of Pro Football Reference stats. It was 51.5 last year. Is this me? I think this is me. I'm going a little lower, 48.6%. League leading.
I'm going to 48, very precise. I'm going 45%. I think it's going to go down. I think it probably still leads the league.
You said 45?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they probably feel better about their corners this year than they did last year, at least to start. But I don't think it's going to go down that much. I will say 50 exactly. And I mean exactly.
Exactly. Okay. This is a reef. Sacks allowed. We're getting a little zany. Sacks allowed by the interior of the offensive line going off of Pro Football Focus.
I feel like you could have said the whole line and not changed our answers.
I looked it up on PFF last year. I think it was like 11, so I'm going with 10.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like 19 a couple of years ago, and Ingram had 11 of them himself.
Man.
Yeah,
I thought we were saying the individual player responsible for the most.
Oh no, total. Add them up.
Total. Okay.
Arif goes 10. Braun.
I have a feeling Darnold walks into a few of these.
PFF might give him to Darnold as well. Keep that in mind.
In theory. I'll say 12.
What did I put? 11. Split the difference. Braun begins, and then we'll take a intermission break. Will Reichard, field goal percentage and extra point percentage.
Extra point percentage, we will say 98.9. He'll miss one.
That's a lot of attempts, too.
We're going to score. We're going to lose, but we're going to score. And field goal percentage, I don't even know what a good field goal percentage. 95. Is that good? That's good, right?
It's incredible. What?
Okay, 92 then. I don't know. No, 95. Drill Reichard. The time has come. It's here.
Stick to your guns, man. That would be almost
It's 95.
It's that good.
I don't know what a good field goal percentage is. I haven't seen a kicker kick better than like 81 in like 9 years, okay?
Right. I'll go a more modest 87-1 field goal, and extra points just are always a kerfuffle. 90.9, he's going to miss like 3 or 4.
Sam, you got a little robot going on, I think, unless that's just on my end. And
Be right back.
I'm hearing it too. Oh God, we don't have our leader. What's going on
what
here?
do you got, Arif?
Geez.
Stall. Talk it out.
Will Reichard, huh? Yep. Oh, hey, Sam's back.
Kicking. Yep.
He still has to do his.
I don't know if better is the right word.
Did you say a percentage?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you.
Oh, okay. I thought we were just talking. No, the field goal percentage, 85%. I think it's like slightly below league average there. Extra point percentage, 97%. The 2 that he'll miss will hurt a lot.
Before I do this read, is my voice okay?
Yes.
Good. We will have our final 7 predictions when we return on the Minnesota Football Party. Sorry about the robo voice. We are brought to you today by PrizePicks. It is the best way to play daily fantasy sports in America. Over 5 million active members. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So sometimes they have great deals like Caleb Williams passing yard, getting you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend this month. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because when September ends, it's gone. Not coming back. You can also win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks with some of their great offers. So check it out. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL. Get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's a great deal. Play 5, get 50. Code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks. Put together a winning entry with that $50 that you get instantly. You don't even need to win on the 5 to receive the $50 bonus. PrizePicks, run your game. 7 predictions to go on our Predictions Tuesday in advance of Week 1. And on Thursday, for our next show, it'll be heavy Giants focused in our first gambling bit of the season for Week 1. All right. We left off with number 9. This is my prediction. Total snaps for all rookies, non-special teams. Will Reichard doesn't count. We did this last week. What did you say, Braun?
I said, oh, Lord. I got to do the math here now.
Yeah, well, you should have prepped for the show. 2,102 is my answer.
I'll never prep for the show. What are you talking about? 2,102,
Arif.
I'm going way lower, like 1,100.
Yeah, I'm closer to Arif here. Dallas Turner
at defensive
is
line,
like the answer.
Nothing from the O-line, man.
McGlothern.
I don't know if McGlothern gets in. I don't know how much Levi Drake gets in. Like, good on you for making the team, like Levi Drake and Taki, but I don't know how much they get in.
O-line injuries, Jurgens and Rouse.
They're not the first backups, man. Like Dallas Turner's probably going to get you like what 700, 750 maybe. I don't know. After that, I was just like, I'll throw some on top of that.
It's tough. 900. Well, no, because Dallas Turner is going to be an every down player. I did say that, so I have to stay consistent with it. 1,236.
1236.
Not 1234. That would have been like a little nice.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No.
Okay.
Arif on the clock, number 10. Which Viking will finish third in receiving yards, and with how many?
Jordan Addison with 700.
Care to share who's 2?
Hawkinson, after he comes back, he's going to make up for like the 4 or 5 games he missed.
Okay, Braun.
I will say TJ Hawkinson with 790. With Addison being second.
Very similar thought process. I also like Hawkinson. I also like, similar to your number, I've got 805. 805, TJ Hawkinson. We did this last year, and I think we were all really optimistic. Total defensive and special teams touchdowns for the Vikings. This would be Braun.
1.
I'm going to go goose egg. I'm just going to cheer against it. None.
We're going to get one really cool punt return
disastrous.
touchdown or something. Or like one just like absolute disaster botched snap from someone that like ends up being a defensive touchdown because they like messed up on the 4.
I think the new kickoff return rule is going to create some opportunities, so I'm going to say 3.
Lost fumbles for the Vikings after 15 last year. Major regression. I'm going 6.
They had the poker out from camp this time.
Yeah, and only this time, so that's the change.
They did not do that last year until it was far too late to develop that habit.
Sam Darnold is a fumbler, and quarterback fumbles are somewhat unique in that there is not a 50% recovery rate for the offense on those. So it's actually much lower. So I'm going to go with 14 lost fumbles because there's still there should still be a regression because that 15 number is insane. But
regression by 1.
Yeah, regression by 1. Well, you're going to increase the number of total fumbles so the regression's in the percentage. But
I got to split the difference here and go like 10 because I do think that they still will have a like there's still some bozo on this offense, but last year was a lot.
I already forgot. Arif, what'd you say for special teams and defense TDs?
3.
3. Okay. And you said 14. Braun said 10. 3 more. Number of different starting combinations on the offensive line. Arif.
Not that many. I'm going to say they're healthy and hale, and you don't got to worry about them too much. 4. And this is starting combination, so if they bring in a 6 offensive lineman, probably the game it doesn't. Yeah,
or somebody twists their ankle for 2 and is out for 2 plays. That's different. You probably have a couple injuries somewhere, like on average. Guys have to kind of shuffle around a little bit. I think there's not really any serious out. Like even Reisner was supposed to be the like serious challenger for starting roles, and who knows when he's even going to be back. I'm going to go with 2.
2. I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to go 3. I think one performance based and then a couple minor injuries.
Yeah.
Huh?
You just
Sam's not playing The Price is Right.
Yeah.
I am a man who's authentic to what he wrote down before the show because, again, I prep. Good for me. CJ Ham. Total.
Wait, someone in the chat said Ingram will be replaced during the season by Tyrese Robinson.
We gotta stop the Tyrese Robinson stuff, man.
That guy did not make the team.
I love it. Who had that great prediction?
70s born, 90s
swag.
70s born, 90s swag. I love it. Let's go. Tyrese Robinson. CJ
That username
Ham.
does roll off the tongue, though. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Total touches.
Let's see. Last year he had 8, right? Wait, is it my turn?
Really?
It
Yeah.
is Braun.
I guess there's like short yardage and stuff.
Braun's turn.
My bad.
6.
So he's going down 8 was a career
Yeah.
low, by the way.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
oh, wait, I forgot about checkdowns. All right, well, my bad.
Set in stone. I'm going to go 13.
Yeah, screw Sam. I'm going to go 14.
That's okay. I've got a good window between 6 and 13 where I can go under. Last one. Final record. I am on the clock here. I think 6 and 11. I'm sorry. I don't think the playoffs are in the cards this year. I'm not even sure in the mix, like in the hunt. I'm not even sure they're in the hunt graphic by season's end.
Oh yeah, you hate Sam Darnold. I totally forgot about that. I was like, that's kind of weird. Yeah, I'm gonna go 8-1 because it's funny.
That would have been a good,
very funny in the first post-Kirk year to go 8-1.
Yeah.
Oh, we got rid of the 500 quarterback, guys. Surely. It's a down year. I've been down on him on my show, on other shows. I've been telling people, look, this is not this. I mean, anything can happen, but this is the kind of year where your best hope is saying anything can happen. It's also
they're doing the
tons of
Garnett
tie
shoot,
vibes.
man.
Tons of tie vibes in this year.
Yeah.
Just really feels like the kind of year where they'll have enough bozo to get a dumb tie game. So 6-10-1.
Beautiful. Thank you, gentlemen, for the predictions. Fun show as always. Thursday, we dive into the Giants-Vikings preview and we make our week 1 bets. Ron Johnson will join. Luke Inman should be back with us. Can't wait. It's game week, people. Thanks for commenting in the chat. Thanks for watching on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. We'll see you in 2 days on the Minnesota Football Party.